please.
Okay. When last I looked, we had Jim in Austin. Jim, are you there?
I am. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, Jim.
I'm all right. I got 3 things for you that I'm going to blow through real quick. Do you mind?
Not at all.
All right. Number 1, you know how I know Jesus was not a black guy, as many people claim? Because he was a cracker, dumb ching. Okay. Number 2, yeah. I was sort of hoping you guys would play devil's advocate for me on a little thought experiment. Do you mind if I give you that?
Are you sure we're going to be playing the devil's advocate, or are we going to be playing Jesus' advocate?
Well, that's a good point. How about you play Jesus' advocate and tell me if I'm wrong?
Fair enough.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you a Christian? I'm
I
Jesus'
am
advocate now. Are you a Christian?
Atheist.
Then you're wrong.
Here's the idea. Christians often say that the Big Bang can't have, like, nothing can't explode, like, where did the matter come from, and it must have it's the first cause argument, or something, or I forget the name, I think it's first cause. And ignoring the idea that God need not have a first cause, they say he's infinite, and that's their explanation.
Right.
So if God is infinite and has existed for an infinite amount of time, then he must have waited an infinite amount of time between the beginning of his existence, which is infinitely far because he's existed forever. He must have waited an infinite amount of time to create our universe, and since you can't wait an infinite amount of time before doing something and still have it be done, he could never have created us.
And you want to know what Christians are going to say in response to this?
What's that?
I have a
without
response.
being a Christian, I don't think that's a terribly good argument, but go on.
Well, I think the most obvious thing they're likely to say in response is, no, God exists outside of time. So you can't even begin to apply time constraints to him.
That's pretty good Christian's advocate answer. And being a math nerd, I kind of reject the premise of the problem that you've brought up, because basically a number line is infinite in extent. You can go from 0 to infinity or minus infinity, but that doesn't mean that the number, an arbitrary number like 2009, doesn't actually exist on the number line. I mean,
I agree.
The question of waiting a certain amount of time kind of has no meaning. We happen to be right here on the timeline, and there's nothing else you can say about that.
I agree, but it's the same argument that they use to explain why the universe can't have been infinite.
Well, that argument is stupid too.
Well, I agree, but if they're making that argument, then they can do the same thought experiment with their God.
So
I'll give you props for that, because I always like turning the argument back around.
Let me just clarify, Jim. You've had Christians say to you that God doesn't have to have been created because he is infinite? That's exactly what they've said to you?
Well, I've heard several, but it's either he's infinite, he's the alpha and omega, the perfect circle, all sorts of nonsensical things that aren't really answers.
Well, I mean, some of those things are that's just special pleading, right? He's a special kind of thing that doesn't need that, right? But specifically, if they try to say, it's because he's infinite, that can't possibly wash. They're arguing that, great big complex things have to have been created, and making God infinite just means he's an infinitely big, infinitely complex thing that, it's infinitely impossible for him not to have been created on that specific point.
Sure. I agree with you. And I appreciate you guys taking my call. And I hope you all have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you.